All right, good evening. Welcome to the Falls Township Board of Supervisors workshop session, Tuesday, December 12th. I'm sorry. We'll be giving a salute to the flag real quick.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so it's been a couple of years, but we used to do 2 supervisors meetings a month. And, we got not quite as much business as we had in the past, so we went down to 1 meeting a month. Lately, we've been getting some pretty big agendas for that one. So we decided we were going to try and do a workshop session earlier in the month. We're not taking any action at these sessions, just more in information gathering. We will look at some land development stuff and have some discussions on it. So we'll start with a roll call. Can you call the roll, Mr. Takita, please?
John Palmer.
Yes.
Jeff Dents.
Yes.
Brian Galloway, Aaron Mullen, and Jeff Baraski are absent.
So it's just the 2 of us. So the first thing we have is proposed self-storage on West Trenton Avenue. Do you know the exact address, Mr. Takita?
It's 316 to 320 West Trenton Avenue.
Right.
In your packet, you have a set of plans as well as a rendering of what the site would look like. The engineer is proposing to do the self-storage facility, but in the front, what he's doing is putting in offices and possibly some second floor apartments just to screen all of that self-storage, and the scale of the buildings that are up front would mimic what's all along West Trenton Avenue.
Right. So this will be just beyond the Marazzo Shopping Center, correct?
Yes, it's in
For reference, on the same side of the road, which is currently just office buildings, I believe.
Yes.
Right.
So the developer and the engineer were just looking for feedback, get questions, concerns before he starts to move forward. He'd like to move forward with the land development portion of this.
It's actually a nice looking design. It looks like 3 houses or retail buildings out front with the storage behind. I don't know if you can't put it up there, right?
No, we didn't have a
Yeah.
PDF.
Maybe we can get it on the website. Overall, I think it looks decent to me, Mr.
Yeah,
Palmer.
I think it definitely fits into that corridor there for sure. Didn't this come before us in some manner before?
It did. There were months ago, well, almost a year ago. It was in an executive session. Renderings were presented to the board, but it was a much more contemporary looking building. And the feedback from the board at that time was, try to make it fit more into the neighborhood. So
Right.
That's what they came back.
I think they did a good job.
Yeah.
Because what you have now is 3 residential properties, I believe, or at least what they might be offices that look like residential
Correct.
properties.
Yes.
And basically, it's the same thing with just storage behind it.
In fact, the building up front there's the 3 that the one closer to the road that actually is the existing. My understanding is that's the existing building that's there now. So
Right.
they're going to keep that one and build the other 3.
And you see anything on there, Mr. Jones, that jumps out at you?
No, I do not. It appears that there's limited area for stormwater management, but through the land development process, should it proceed, we would make sure that they meet all of our ordinances.
Anything else, Mr. Palmer?
Yeah, Rich, did this go across your desk? You okay?
Yeah, again, we're not taking any action. We're just taking a look at this and
Yeah,
Should be
I'll relay the
before-
feedback to the
regular
engineer.
board of supervisors.
Much better, yeah.
All right. The other one we have is 2219 Fallsington Tullytown Road. These are lots all the way down that back up right. They're between Fallsington Tullytown Road and Route 13,
Correct.
and they call these movie lots, right, Mike?
Correct.
And what's that term mean?
So it's a very old, antiquated term where literally these were things that were like given away. There tend to be smaller lots that were owned by some business that bought another business in the township. And they would give them away as like door prizes or things, with the idea that no one could really develop them. But as municipalities grew and grew and space became less and less, people have tried to start developing these movie lots by accumulating. I'm pushed down here. I turned it off. By accumulating multiple of these lots.
All right. And where exactly do these? It's odd that somebody would build a house with backing up to Route 13, but I've seen stranger things. It's literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 duplexes. It looks like. Is that correct? There's no
That's correct.
actual drawings of what they're going to look like. Will they need a lot of zoning relief? Does it look like?
I believe so. I believe that there's most likely a setback off of Bristol Pike that would
Yeah,
be
there's got to be
prohibited.
a buffer there of some sort, right,
Correct.
And it's also zoned neighborhood commercial, so they do need a use variance.
for residential. Yeah.
We have gotten other proposals for these lots, a lot of them being warehouses, contractors, self-storage
Yeah, we've gotten
facilities.
calls, a lot of calls over the years. Interesting.
What are your thoughts on any feedback at all?
I'm trying to figure out exactly where this is. I mean, is this like, I'm looking at the map here and I'm just not like.
Mr. Palmer, I'm pretty sure it's in the vicinity of where the baseball fields are, on the opposite side of Fallsington, Tullytown, in that vicinity,
Across from Levittown Continental?
where the Challenger fields are. Yeah.
Oh, down there, okay. So it's by Bella Pizza.
In the general vicinity on
Okay.
the left side. Correct.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It sounds like you have to do a lot of work on it.
I mean, if they can get the variances, that's an odd spot. I mean, there's not a lot going on down there. We said the same thing about the townhouses they built behind the old township building, but they sold them as fast as they could build them. The any other comments, Mr. Palmer,
No.
Jones, or anybody else?
Beef up the guardrail system on Route 13 if you build it.
Yeah, that would be a. I think there's got to be a big buffer there.
Sound wall or something.
The third one is 654 Lincoln Highway. This is right down the street here. It used to be the old Lincoln Garage. And they've had many meetings with the residents in that area, I believe. Is that correct, Mr. Takita?
They've met with the residents. I had a meeting with them as well on site, just to go over what they're proposing.
Right. So it's proposing 2 apartment buildings. They proposed 4-story, 55 and over apartment buildings, 48 units. Now, are they apartments or condos?
Apartments.
It does. I thought they had said condos at one point. So their issue, they did show us a drawing in the past that did not have nearly enough parking, but it looks like they've done a lot of work to improve that. Do you know the number of parking spots they now have?
The total spaces they're calling out is 187, and 264 are required.
So it's still short.
Yeah, they're still short. I know the original proposal came in as a 4-story building. It's still a 4-story building.
Yeah. I still don't think less than a minimum of 2 parking spots per unit. I swear they said it was condos originally.
I recall the same. At one point, they were talking about condos.
Yeah, because this now says apartments. That's a whole different thing.
So one comment is that you'd like at least to see maybe up to two
At least two
spaces per.
at least, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's tight. I mean, and I think there was an issue with fire also, wasn't there?
Well, they put that whole fire lane in the back.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
we didn't go very far with it.
no.
You saw this drawing?
Yeah.
What do you think?
But it wasn't, I don't, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, they never really sent that in for a review, did they?
No, not for a formal review by, no, it was just really just sketches to get board feedback.
Okay. I think we should, before we give them any feedback, the rest of the board needs to get some input on this.
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just in running the numbers, they're at 1.94.
They're close.
Yeah, they're close. So
And I'd like some clarification on whether they're going to be apartments or not.
Now, what is the appeal for 55 over and not like just strictly housing? Like, is there a big appeal for that in this area? Because it seems like St. Joe's moved in and that was 55 and over, and Avonroe, and where's the appeal? I mean, for just market apartments, or even condos.
I don't know.
I think sometimes there is a developer will say this is going to be 55 plus because they're not trying to get any opposition from the school district, because presumably in a 55 plus there aren't any school age children. Also, it can be that they're going to try to argue that without children of any age there, because they presumably are grown, that the need for parking is less. Sometimes there's an argument made that 55 plus, the parking requirements should be based on like senior living, which isn't the case. But I think that's some of the reasons why people are looking at 55 plus. And why it's wanted in the market, I don't really know. I think it's seemingly kind of not as popular as it once was. But you're right, we had St. Joe's a few years back, but I don't know if it's as popular as it once was. So
Thank you.
We have a proposal for chairs, but I don't think we can do anything with that tonight, correct?
correct. Yeah, that's
All
an
right.
action item. So that'll be off.
So that number 5 is off.
And,
And number 6, we have a rededication of the Kirby Park, Franklin Kirby Park.
so in your packet, you'll see a little proposal from the police department. They'd like to do some fundraising to make improvements to Kirby Park and then do a rededication of the park for the police department. Their goal is to get get enough funding so that all the improvements that they need, including a little footbridge across the creek to connect the two sides of the park, would all be funded. So hopefully we would not be putting any money out of our own pockets for the work that's being done. The park could use, a cleanup and some sprucing up. The path is a little deteriorated. So is the basketball court.
Right.
And adding a footbridge would be a positive feature.
Okay. I guess we'll have to discuss that again with the rest of the board as well.
Okay.
Doesn't look a terrible idea if they're going to fund it.
Right.
No, I thought this came before us in some manner before. Like,
They
was there
mentioned the
conflict?
idea, the concept of it.
No, but wasn't there a conflict? Weren't we something about a grant or?
No, they had put out a flyer without any of the board knowing about this project. So I asked the chief to pause on it so we could get more information about what exactly he was doing and present it to you guys a little more formally, so you had a better idea of what exactly the scope of the project was going to be. So that's what you have in front of you.
Now, is this just the police department, or is this between Falls Township and PAF doing it together? Or
They're going to raise the funds, they said.
Yeah, PAC is going to raise the funds. Now, I mean, there's going to be township involvement because there's going to be a stream crossing. So, Jones will have to take a look at that to make sure everything's okay. Whatever permits are required, we'd have to, go through that process.
Right.
But ideally, the funds will all be through fundraising from the PAC.
All right.
very nice.
And we have any other township business needed?
There is no other business
And we didn't have an executive session, did we?
We did not.
And that's it then. All right. Thank you very much. We adjourn.
Stream is ended.